Rafaela, we can start the meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunnar. Welcome. I'm very happy to be here with you to the WorldSkills conference. So we are on the track 2, session 2, strengthening inclusivity, new learning models. But in reality, I would say that this is certainly the most important part of the WorldSkills conference, because we are going to discuss what is the reaction that especially youth has to has to manage vis-a-vis COVID, to gain skills, to be empowered vis-a-vis the future of work and society in a situation that is extremely complex, like the one we are facing now. Poverty alleviation is a rather new topic for the WorldSkills conference. We are going to assess in the next session, and the 3-2, improving employment outcomes through skills. So in this session, we really focus on the role of skills, on vocational education to empower individuals, and especially youth, vis-a-vis society and the economy. We want to understand what are the regional strategies to cope with the impact of COVID-19. We want to understand what were the impact of remote learning on the capacity of young people to access skills that they can use in different situations, and also learn from youth. We have the possibility here to have direct experiences. We have a parterre de roi. Let me say that I'm very happy to have the speakers that I will introduce in a moment. Let me do some instructions to participate well and actively in this meeting. What we want to do is, first, if you do not understand me, there is interpretation here for you that you can switch in English, Chinese, and probably other languages. And you can also ask questions to the speakers by using the Q&A function that I'm sure you're familiar with. Now, let me introduce the speakers. We are lucky because, as I said at the beginning, there is diversity in this panel. So we have the international organizations, we have policymakers, and we have people that work on field to provide youth with the skills they need and the support that they need to access skills. So we have Yusra Assali, regional representative from Middle East and North Africa, the WorldSkills Champion Trust. Is also with us Sara Andinia, Director of Design and Technology of Educate. We have Mr. Hirojimi Katayama, Program Specialist, Section of Youth Literacy and Skills Development at the UNESCO. And we have Aidan Sloan, which is the Interim Director of Development and Infrastructure at Belfast Metropolitan College in Great Britain. And then, of course, Shi Likang, Deputy Director General from Yunnan Province, Department of Human Resources and Social Security from China. This and myself, let me introduce myself as well. I'm Raffaele Trapasso. I work at the OECD, where I lead the work on entrepreneurship education and skills. So I would ask, this is a very complex issue and is very multifaceted. I would ask the speakers to be very concise so we can try to assess a lot of questions. And, we have a very detailed moderator guide, the run of show. So in the first round of questions will be 5 minutes each, and we will try then to develop a little bit more if we save time and if the framework of the conference allow us. The first question is to the UNESCO representative, Mr. Hiromichi Katayama. Mr. Katayama, the pandemic aggravated inequalities. Women, youth, and low-skilled people have all been affected more by the impacts of COVID-19. Could you tell us what is that impact that you have assessed at the global level, especially in youth involved in vocational educational training programs? Mr. Katayama, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Rafael.
Very well, thank you.
Yes, and first of all, thanks for the WorldSkills. Thanks for inviting UNESCO to here. And I would like to respond to that question by showing some of the key findings that we have obtained from the surveys that we conducted during the COVID pandemic with other organizations. We have a network called the Interagency Working Group on Tibet, and we have conducted several surveys during the time of the COVID. So as one of the findings under the COVID pandemic time was we saw that there is, of course, the disruption of the delivery of Tibet vocational training, especially the practical skills training. And this is because the training institutions are closed, and also the companies' enterprises are also closed, and they were unable to provide the practical skills training, especially in the context of developing countries. And that's one of the reasons is the lack of the coordinated response to these challenges by incorporating the work-based training and also the use of the distance learning. And there are a lot of challenges we have observed. And partially, there is a lack of the distance learning facilities, and also the staff members, teachers, trainers are not trained to deliver the distance learning. And also learners are not well equipped to receive these distance learning trainings. And as a result, we have observed that the practical training has been suspended, which was very problematic on vocational trainings. And also we have observed some constraint on the resources, both financial resources and also technical resources. And we think that it is very critical for the enterprises, the industries, to be involved in the delivery of skills development programs. But because of this pandemic, we saw that many enterprises are no longer able to offer work-based training programs. And the learners they don't have a chance to receive the work-based practical training during that time. And also the loss of financial and human resources during this pandemic time was very critical, especially for the small SME, small and medium-scale enterprises. And also we also look at the household side, the learners and also their parents. And we saw that many parents lost their jobs and they are not able to pay the training fees for their children. And the dropout of the vocational training institution has been increased. And also Tibet institutions, they were not able to invest their time and financial resources for the development of distance learning infrastructure. So in short, I think the combination of all of these negative impacts created a kind of vicious circle, and there are a lot of negative impacts on the quality of the training provided by the vocational training programs. I'd like to briefly talk about one of the projects supported by UNESCO with the financial support of the European Union in the southern Mediterranean countries. We have just concluded the youth employment project in the MENA regions, and we have been supporting those countries to develop the skills anticipations, the mainstreaming of digital skills, and the promotion of entrepreneurship. But during the time of COVID, we conducted some studies in Palestine and Israel, and we saw that especially the tourism sectors, they receive a lot of negative impacts. And we discussed how we can retrain and reskill the workers in the tourism sector so that they can find jobs in the other emerging sectors outside the tourism sectors. So we discussed how the vocational training system can support this work-to-work transition, especially under this difficult time under the COVID crisis. And also, both in Israel and Palestine, we have been supporting the skills anticipations, but the data that we obtained from the labor force survey, household survey, they don't reflect the latest situation under the COVID pandemic time. So we pay attention to the non-traditional labor market information, which is the online job search platform. because many enterprises, they posted their job vacancy announcement on the online platform. And also the job seekers are trying to find the opportunities using these online platforms. So we got the big data from the job descriptions from one of the companies, both in Israel and Palestine. And we are now comparing the analysis of what kind of skills are demanded by enterprises before COVID time and also during the COVID time. And the preliminary findings shows that there are some differences, the changing the skills demanded by the enterprises in these two countries. But again, I think they only capture the formal employment, and university graduates, they tend to use this online job search platform for their job hunting. But for the informal workers or vulnerable youth, they are not necessarily using this kind of online platform. So this is another challenge, and this is something we will continue to explore.
Thank you very much, Romic.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is very relevant. Perfect storm. The challenge from that of providing people with transversal skills, so entrepreneurship, etc., and the dramatic lack of data. We were all blinded by the COVID. Now let's move to the field, because we have the next question is for Yusra Asali from the WorldSkills champion, the WorldSkills Center. Yusra, can you tell us how young people in MENA country, because Hiromichi already referred to that region, how they go, the way in which they have gone through the COVID-19 crisis and how they have coped with the closure of schools and training center. Yusra, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The lives of young people were significantly affected at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in several key dimensions essential to development and well-being of young people, including psychological well-being, social relationship, nutrition, access to health services, and education. At the start of the pandemic, youth was the cluster most affected by the increase in employment, as some industries such as restaurants, hotels are usually dominated by young people. Meanwhile, distance learning solutions were implemented to an unheard of scale to attach instructor and learners, later having had several challenges. On the one hand, some TVT's programs have struggled the most with adjustment to distance learning, evidently people who rely closely on learning by doing. In contrast, programs that could switch to remote learning more easily are those with a stronger emphasis on academic subjects or work-specific skills that do not require manual activities. On the other hand, despite the flexibility and commitment shown by the schools and training center initially, and I'm speaking especially about MENA region and Africa, a large number of students found that distance learning education was ineffective and amplified inequalities between young people due to lack of resources, limited access to the internet, and lack of support. And even myself as a student, I have been through these challenges, especially at the beginning, the fear concerning my own health and that of my loved one, the adaptation of a new different study methods weren't the pleasant things to do, but have been fortunate enough to overcome them. Those lack of physical learning opportunities and economic distress has increased the disengagement and dropout of education and training for young people in general, and women in particular to support their family. Moving forward, we've challenged ourselves and accomplished great achievements by promoting innovators and problem solvers who want to make a difference with their passion and career and have created miracles and helped overcome this pandemic.
I was muted. Thank you, Yusra. And what is the expectations for you? What is that you would like to see moving in terms of skills in the post-pandemic setting? What is that the outlook for you?
Well, we young people have the stakeholder invest and train those girls who drop out, train those young people who do not only happen to receive the training they needed, but haven't even had the chance to explore their career and skills, especially the young people graduate in this time of crisis will find it more difficult to find decent job and income, which is not only likely to delay their path to financial independence, but also to delay the realization of their dreams. Investing in learning technology and digital skills of VET instructors and students can ensure lifelong access to learning opportunity and future workforce adaptability. And also we hope that more education supports opportunities, especially for MENA region and Africa, because we cannot overlook that Africa has been hit the hardest by this pandemic, especially in learning resources. Investing in learning resources can not only have economic benefits, but a large chain ranging from individuals' benefits to strong societies' benefit that can not only build employees, but also innovators, creators, and problem solvers.
Thank you very much, Yusra. It was extremely interesting also because it illustrates well that it's not only about vocational educational training, but it's about a bundle of policies that you need to put in place to guarantee the infrastructure, the framework, the implementation of innovative education solutions. Let's stay, in the southern part of the world, and I have a question now for Sara Nadinia for Educate. Educate is active in Africa and has the purpose to prepare youth in Africa with the skills to succeed in today's economy. This is taken from the website of Educate. And my question for you, Sara, is how does Educate develop skills training in Africa, and how did you respond to the challenge of COVID-19? Sara, the floor is yours for 5 minutes, please.
All right. Thank you, Raphael, for inviting Educate, and I appreciate the opportunity to join and learn from the great panelists that we have. As you mentioned, Educate focuses on giving youth the skills to succeed in the economy. Since 2009, we've partnered with youth, schools, and governments in Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya. In 2019, we measurably impacted over 46,000 youth in and out of schools, while reaching about 470,000 learners more broadly. This makes us the biggest youth skills provider in East Africa. Our approach is anchored on a 100-hour core experience with the most essential skills youth need to transition from school to work. Somewhat unique to our region, formal jobs don't really exist in much of East Africa. 90% of youth are projected to work in the informal sector. For that reason, our 100-hour experience aims to build the essential soft and transferable skills like communication, creativity, and critical thinking, which are proven to have a long-term impact on youth life outcomes like education attainment, family planning, and labor market outcomes. Research has shown that transferable skills are an essential building block of success in life, and they set up youth for achievement across a range of outcomes. On top of those foundational skills, we layer the hard skills of business by providing opportunities for youth to learn and practice. That's really important. Each aspect of starting and running a business in the real world. So these are things like opportunity identification, business planning, and financial literacy. To ensure we're heading in the right direction and continuously deepening our impact on youth life outcomes, we prioritize regular evaluations of this approach. 2 rigorous external evaluations of our core experience, including a randomized control trial, found that towards the end of secondary school, participants in our program earned nearly double the income of their peers. And a follow-up RCT found that 4 years later, youth actually see major improvements in skills, in educational attainment, and gender equity outcomes, especially for girls. We deliver that evidence-based core experience in 3 primary ways: directly through working with schools, integrating into government education systems, and through bootcamps for youth who can't access the formal education system. This is actually our latest area of focus, as we acknowledge that about half of the youth cannot access secondary school, and yet they still need clear pathways to employment. These solutions for out-of-school youth are built upon the evidence of that 100-hour core experience and a bootcamp we supported a few years ago, which had over 30% income gains for youth 3 years after participating in the 3-week-long experience. We've built and are running a bootcamp for motorcycle couriers and drivers in Kenya. So they're commonly referred to as border riders. Now we're also piloting a bootcamp for girls or young women who are not able to enroll or graduate from secondary school. I'd like to talk about the distance learning model we created in particular, and the technological and infrastructural challenges that we experienced, because all of this work was called into question when COVID closed schools and limited in-person interactions. Because remember, the primary way that we were reaching our youth was through schools. Young people's continued engagement with their education and new pathways to employment are even more critical today. Youth need now more than ever to be gaining those 21st century skills that will support their resilience and recovery to this pandemic. To help bridge the learning gap, we adapted our proven core experience to create a condensed distance learning version, which we call our VIP Bootcamp, which stands for Virtual Innovation Program. It's delivered directly through basic accessible technologies like SMS, one-on-one phone calls, and conference calls. We are still learning a lot about this approach. For example, the minimum amount of programming youth need to see real impact and gender technology gaps. However, after experimenting with various simple technologies, we were able to reach over 100,000 students by October of 2020. Most importantly, the VIP Bootcamp showed meaningful impact on a group of 3,000 youth. So we've been working to scale this up since.
Thank you very much. It was extremely interesting to learn that you are acting at the frontier, actually, of education policy by identifying the need of providing these young people with the transversal skills besides the technical skills. And transversal skills, 21st century skills, are often considered a luxury for education systems that tend to concentrate and focus on technical skills. But it's difficult to find an equilibrium. Now, let's move to the other side of the world, to Belfast, with Aidan Sloan from the Belfast Metropolitan College. Aidan, it's basically the same question that I have for you, and I imagine that the challenges are still the same, despite the fact that you operate in the European Union. Please, Aidan, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raphael. And firstly, thank you to the colleagues at WorldSkills for the opportunity to join today's panel. And we're delighted that Belfast Met had the opportunity to join our esteemed panel colleagues this morning to discuss such a critical issue. In response to the question, I think it's important to set the context for the Northern Ireland region, Raphael. The size of the population here in Northern Ireland is in the region of 1.9 million people. The population of the Belfast Government District is in the region of 350,000 people, which equates to 18% of the total population. The working age population in Northern Ireland is in the region of 1.2 million people. And in terms of our most recent labour market report, the employment rate in Northern Ireland is at 71% in comparison to the UK rate of 75%. The unemployment rate is at 4% in comparison to the UK rate of 4.6%. And the economic inactivity rate is in the region of 25% across the region. The impact of COVID-19 is certainly still being felt across the Northern Ireland region. In terms of the number of employees furloughed was in the region of 290,000. And we have a total of 840,000 people employed across 780,000 jobs. And we also have 120,000 people who are in self-employment. In terms of poverty in the Northern Ireland region, 70% of individuals are in relative poverty, 22% of children in relative poverty, and 14% of working age adults are in relative poverty. So that just sets a context for the Northern Ireland region. Like many jurisdictions following COVID-19, Northern Ireland faces a range of challenging rates of unemployment and economic inactivity, particularly for our young people. And the pandemic has exacerbated this problem, mainly because of the sectors that they work in being hardest hit by the economic lockdowns. So what measures are being implemented in Northern Ireland and across the Belfast region to support those individuals through challenges? And what has been the regional response in Northern Ireland to address poverty with those most vulnerable? Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Northern Ireland was enjoying a rather buoyant labour market with low rates of unemployment. And in recent years, Northern Ireland has made significant progress in strengthening its skills system and economic and social performance. Indeed, the skills of young people have been improving and now above the OECD average in reading, mathematics and science, and the share of the labour force are in the position of having a tertiary education. Further, Northern Ireland economic input has been increasing steadily, with education, jobs, health and accessibility to services all improving over the last 2 decades. And the skills system has been crucial to meeting the poverty challenges facing Northern Ireland across the years. The skills ecosystem, through its learners and the employers it works with, will continue to be at the centre of driving the inclusive growth that we need across the region. Northern Ireland's skills system has been through a significant period of change in recent years, a consistent pace of reform, a new set of strategies designed to meet the demand for employment and from industry for skills and to boost the levels of skills in Northern Ireland. And this can be seen through a range of reforms, through the introduction of new training and apprenticeship strategies, through skills programmes like higher level apprenticeships and our innovative assured skills programmes, with Northern Ireland colleges central to the delivery of these innovative strategies. Indeed, the skills system in Northern Ireland is critical to our economic prosperity and to tackling poverty. Skills matter to individuals and employees, ensuring that they can maximise their potential, delivering job opportunities and the chance to progress in their chosen career and indeed in their lives. The Northern Ireland Programme for Government sets out a framework that the Executive wishes to see in Northern Ireland, one of which is to have more people working in better jobs. The better jobs outcome is based on the recognition that changes in the labour market, both in terms of changing the supply of jobs available for local people and the demand for better paying and skilled jobs, is the best way to improve competitiveness, increase productivity and importantly tackle inequalities such as poverty and marginalisation. They include the Northern Ireland Skills Strategy, the apprenticeship and youth training strategies and, as I've said, the innovative assured skills strategy. In addition, our Department for Economy has implemented a comprehensive economic recovery action plan to support the region's recovery from COVID-19, which places skills central to the plan. And to do this, we will build on the success of our existing employment support programmes, further adapting and modifying these to address the challenges that we face and ensure that these meet future business needs. And the Northern Ireland Further Education college sector is a key enabler in achieving the regional policy of creating a global competitive economy that works for everyone. At Belfast Met, we're fully committed to our dual mandate of economic development and social inclusion, with the remit to tackle social inequalities through the acquisition of skills at different levels, to move from essential skills right through to higher level apprenticeships and degree courses. Our post-16 education and training focuses on jobs, employability and work readiness, and this includes a range of courses on offer and more practically oriented teaching and learning, including work placements and work experience. We're reducing the overall rate of economic inactivity, preventing the likelihood of individuals becoming economically inactive and helping those who are inactive progress into the world of work. The main way that we reduce the risk of people becoming inactive is through the provision of economically relevant qualifications so that people can progress in employment. Indeed, skills development is amongst the current and future workforce, particularly post the pandemic, and it's a function that the college will continue to tackle the rates of economic inactivity in Northern Ireland. As our economy emerges from COVID-19 and transitions to a period of digital transformation will continue to reshape our pedagogical design and delivery methodology for our skills and apprenticeship education. And we continue to implement best practice to achieve digital education transformation, from mobile and video technologies through to innovative learning management systems to support both synchronous and asynchronous learning solutions, in order to blend the pedagogical design and digital technology to achieve new ways of learning and new ways of reaching learners across the region. And we provide new methods for engagement and dissemination through those digital channels and enhanced development of digital literacy competencies, providing improved access for our learners who wish to obtain necessary knowledge and competence through a skills development pathway while supporting progression to the labour market and into employment. So in summary, for our learners, we offer a range of qualifications that are targeted at employment as well as progression. We offer flexible, shorter, part-time or blended learning courses that can help upskill and reskill those in the workforce or those with caring and family commitments. And we offer widening participation as social mobility programs for those from more excluded socioeconomic groups. For the economy, we develop the local, sub-regional and regional skills offer to address skills gaps and skills shortages. We focus on vocational education and partnerships with employers and industry, which strengthens the work readiness for those programs and for those progressing from colleges into the world of work. And we're fully committed to delivering quality vocational education and training to break the intergenerational challenge of poverty and to reduce the overall levels of poverty at the Northern Ireland regional level. And we firmly believe that vocational training is the gateway to the world of work, self-employment and entrepreneurship. So hopefully that provides some insight into what measures are being implemented by our local government in Northern Ireland and our colleges to address marginalisation and poverty within vulnerable groups in Northern Ireland.
Thank you very much, Aidan, because I think that your intervention clarified that this kind of approach to education policy at the local level is basically linking productivity and inclusiveness, and also is a gateway to communicate with the private sector. And it's very challenging in this period to be a local government because you've been at the forefront of the crisis, trying to link together all the pieces. We strongly appreciate your experience. And I have the same question actually, and about the challenges of a local authority to connect the different policies and to provide the support for vulnerable groups in a region. We have the pleasure here to have Mr. Li Kang Shi with us from the Human Resources and Social Security Department in the Yunnan province. Please, Shi, the floor is yours again for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Greetings. The Yunnan province is situated in the southwest border of China with a population of 47 million plus people. By the end of 2021, we have by the end of 2012, the poverty population exceeds 8.8 million people and a poverty labor force of 4.5 million. In order to address that problem, we need to find out where the problem lies. They don't have a lot of vocational skills. They don't have the ability to find jobs, and this is one of the key reasons that they fall into poverty. That's why the government of the Yunnan province evaluated the reasons behind these challenges and has issued a number of policies to encourage vocational skills training to enhance the competence of poverty population in terms of vocational training so that they could access more employment. As we implement these new policies, a lot of poverty population have benefited from that and have enhanced their level of skills and enhanced their capacity to be employed and to find jobs. Yunnan's province has the biggest feature. It's led by a strong government, and its initiatives are participated by a number of social organizations and corporations. So we target and identify poverty population, what kind of vocational skills they lack, and why cannot they find jobs? So we devise targeted policies for different groups of populations to carry out targeted vocational training sessions. Secondly, we need to make sure that policies are effectively implemented and people's capacity could be effectively enhanced. We have dedicated funds from the government to aid these populations to have vocational training. So it's got the government that's paid the bill, and institutions don't have to do their own investments. Thirdly, during the vocational training, we need to combine the three demands from the industry, demands from the institutions, and demands from our populations, so that our training could be more targeted and could be more effective, and that the training could best meet the demands of the industries locally. And as we carry out vocational training, we need to also carry out a framework, a comprehensive framework that combine employment with vocational training. We should not sow division between the job market and vocational training, and we need to be more targeted, have more targeted financial subsidies for participants of vocational training. And for those people who have a low learning ability, we need to give them more assistance in terms of financial support and vocational training. We give them repetitive and multiple vocational training sessions so that they could be easily integrated into the job market, so that more people could gain more access to vocational skills, can find more jobs. And local governments at various levels also do follow up for the vocational sessions that we carry out. And also, we coordinate the private market, corporations, enterprises with the government so that we have a full cycle from the development of vocational training and all the way to the follow-up. We have a full chain of vocational training session so that our people could not only have access to vocational training, but also have access to job market and also have access to follow-up evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Likan-Shi. It was interesting, striking difference from Belfast to almost 9 million people in the Yunnan province. And again, the result is the same. You are the forefront of the policy, connecting education policy and social and productivity, connecting with the private sector, and offering people this service. They accompany them because they at different levels of their level of education, interaction with the labor market, the way they need different services. And it's interesting to see that you are trying to tailor different services, accompanying individuals in their struggle. So now I will go back to Mr. Hiromichi Katayama. And I would like to know what kind of, from the perspective, the international perspective of UNESCO, the global level, what kind of skills training and what kind of investment in skills training is needed to improve the situation, especially for the underprivileged groups and for poverty alleviation. What is the global view that you have on this? Thank you, Hiromichi. Again, 4 minutes this time, a little bit shorter.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Rafael. Yes, about this, the underprivileged people, we haven't put the priority on supporting the vulnerable groups like informal sector workers. And like ILO statistics say that almost 70% of people in developing countries are working in the informal sectors, and also the close to 20% in developed countries are also in the informal sector workers. And especially for the women, young people, and also the senior citizens, they tend to work in the informal sector. And we are paying attention to that. And we found that the e-learning materials and also mobile learning could provide some opportunities for these people to have an access to the training and also reskilling and upskilling opportunities. But in many low-income countries, we have observed that because of the poor digital literacy and also the lack of access to the technology and the connectivities, and also some people even have a problem of purchasing the smartphone, and they are facing a difficulty to access to the training programs. And in Asia Pacific, we see that over half of population, they don't have a mobile internet access. And also in Africa, we saw that even in the formal labor market, there are not enough job opportunities. So, well, given these kind of situations where we provide a TVET and skills for skills development for the informal sector workers, the providing training is not enough, and we have to think about how we can address the reducing the digital divide of these people, and also how we can align the needs of the labor market, skills needs in the labor market. Because especially in the MENA countries, most of the formal job opportunities are in the public sectors, and the formal employment chance is very limited for these peoples. And one of our projects, we provided a support for young people to start their own business, and we provide some training and we provide some toolkit to the young people. It works sometimes, but our colleagues say that in some other cases, they don't use it, and some of them, they sell the toolkit on the street and they are doing completely different things. So the intention is good, but the reality, we found a lot of difficulties. And UNESCO has been trying to work with OECD to clarify some of the key issues for the informal workers on skills development, like improvement of informal apprenticeship, and also the promoting skills recognition of the prior learning. And also we try to ensure the lifelong learning opportunities. And in this context, as Mr. Shi mentioned, we think that the investment in the training for informal sector workers is very important, but the allocation of the governmental budget has always limited. And we are now conducting the review of the training fund, the levy-based training fund, to see how countries can mobilize the financial resources from private sectors, from SMEs, to support the training for the informal sector workers. So we would like to continue this effort to see the best solution for those vulnerable groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Michi. Extremely interesting, because it's great to see also, as Mr. Likanga and Sarah mentioned, the focus on the informal side of the labor market, because for many years this was completely ignored, the thinking that it was impossible to reach to these people, and now this has become the first and foremost challenge, especially after the COVID. And I would like to keep on discussing on that with Sarah from Dinia for Educate. Sarah, you already mentioned some very practical examples, by reaching out through SMS, through phone calls. But could you give us more examples, practical examples for your work about skills development from different groups and, especially disadvantaged women? Sarah, please, the floor is yours for 4 minutes.
Thank you. So we're obsessed with impact. We invest deeply in periodic, rigorous external evaluations. As I've mentioned, we've run RCTs on our core experience and have seen a doubling in income of youth participants. And 4 years later, those youth demonstrate large and durable shifts in skills alongside significant improvements in both educational and gender-related outcomes. We learned that Educate led to notable improvements in young women's educational attainment, as well as gender equity-related outcomes, virtually closing the gender gap in secondary graduation rates and increasing female likelihood of attending university and pursuing higher earning degrees. Coupled with these outcomes, the RCT showed a reduction in intimate partner violence, about an 18% decrease for women, and delayed childbirth at about a 21% decrease for women and men, fewer children, and an increased joint decision-making in a relationship where young women are 28% more likely to feel as though they can decide whether to work outside of the home. Our model encourages young men to be equal partners in challenging inequality and dismantling barriers that hold girls back. And the RCT found that this positively shifted perspectives regarding their female peers. So the gender attitudes were more egalitarian as a result of our program. After participating in Educate, young men further recognized women's value and roles in society, as well as a woman's right to safe and consensual sex. We're still learning about the drivers of this impact, but we think a key component is our robust gender equity strategy. This strategy includes engaging an equal number of girls and boys together in various learning spaces, because we know it's critical that boys understand these concepts too and are partners in challenging gender norms and injustices. Our curriculum was developed with gender responsiveness at the forefront, and our model blends a combination of soft skills, such as grit, creativity, and self-efficacy, alongside practical application. So, for example, our lessons include real-life case studies of female entrepreneurs and business owners, which can encourage youth to think critically about the norms they've seen in their communities. And we also recognize the power of representation in young people's lives. In an environment where few women occupy businesses and even teaching spaces, we intentionally recruit female mentors for our students who act as role models for both male and females to look up to. And mentors are trained to encourage girls to break stereotypes in safe spaces. And when they feel confident in doing so, they're able to speak in front of the class, they're able to hold leadership positions, and generally combat the socializations of girls to be quiet and demure. So together, we believe these components create that social spillover impact that our RCT evaluation found.
Thank you, Sarah. And the obsession about impact is fantastic, because it's the best learning opportunity for you as a policy implementer, because you learn by doing, in fact, and
Yes.
by implementing the policy. I have a similar question now for Aidan Sloan from the Belfast Metropolitan College, because we are now discussing a lot this capacity to specialize policy interventions according to different needs, different levels of skills. So could you give us an example in Belfast, Aidan?
Yes, thank you, Raphael. Yes, thank you. As I discussed in my earlier response, at Belfast Metropolitan College, we have an extensive range of skills development and training solutions, which utilise a range of different methodologies for both the design and delivery of skills training to support young people to get a job or get a better job, as we've discussed. And that's in order to drive forward and deliver sustained social inclusion and economic impact for the region. At the college, we've developed a range of innovative skills training solutions to meet the needs of learners and industry. And I'd like to highlight the particular area of our youth training and apprenticeship provision to support this insight. As we know, youth training and apprenticeship programs improve the employability of young people and prepare them for the jobs that employers and wider society need. Indeed, employers and providers of youth training have a pivotal role to play as we emerge from the impact of COVID-19 and move through a period of economic recovery here in Northern Ireland. We recognise that businesses are the core contributor of youth training and apprenticeship opportunities across a range of professional and technical curriculum areas, in partnership with colleges, universities and other providers to ensure the provision of high quality training and professional education and relevant curriculum. Living in these unprecedented and challenging times, and as we emerge from the pandemic, it's critical that we support the development of the Northern Ireland Skills Pipeline here at Belfast Met, which supports the needs of employers and the economy whilst also providing valuable and meaningful employment for the young people across the region. In Northern Ireland, youth training and apprenticeships continue to experience development and growth and have been placed at the core of government's vocational education and training policies in order to contribute to the future skills needs in a rapidly evolving economy, with over 60,000 young people commencing a training and apprenticeship career pathway over the last number of years in Northern Ireland. Further, youth training programmes are central components of the Economic Recovery Action Plan in the region, and therefore will further reinforce the long-term policy commitment under the new skills strategy for Northern Ireland. At Belfast Met, we have developed the breadth and depth of our youth training and apprenticeship curriculum in partnership with industry through a collaborative co-design methodology to ensure that our curriculum is relevant and responsive to the needs of industry. We are highly passionate about developing and delivering inclusive, collaborative initiatives to ensure that people can access skills, new educational technology, personal development and employability support, so that they may broaden their own horizons and progress in their chosen career through high-quality training and education. We very carefully consider how youth training curriculum is designed and delivered to best suit the needs of learners and employers, leading to quality outputs, a quality experience, and the transformational change that is critical to successfully deliver the policy strategy for our young people across the region in Northern Ireland. We have a commitment to digital transformation and its potential to reshape the pedagogical design and delivery methodology of youth training education as we move forward. As a strategic leader in youth training, we are fully committed to the transformational potential of digital technology, and we continue to seek ways to effectively embed that technology to support the delivery of teaching and learning across our provision. In recent years, our youth training market has been further expanding due to the development of our curriculum and supporting digital environment, with emerging technology platforms, expanding online learning courses, as well as blended and distance learning, which are all now fully embedded as integral component parts of our skills training programs. At Belfast Met, our strategic and operational planning for the development of this curriculum is highly effective, has been further developed through good collaboration and co-design approaches with industry, professional bodies, and the public sector. The development of suitable pathways from youth training to progress into employed apprenticeships has been a successful focus for the college, with new specialist progression pathways to widen the provision being introduced in areas such as financial services, cybersecurity, cloud development, and civil engineering, to name a few. Through our strong ethos of social responsibility and economic inclusion, the college remains committed to those young people furthest from education, training, or employment. And indeed, a range of innovative projects are used to develop our youth training provision, providing relevant progression and access pathways, which is appropriate for those young people who face multiple barriers to engagement in education and training. These programs help to engage young people in relevant learning and training, to address those individual barriers and to raise their confidence and enable them to successfully progress into the world of work and through an apprenticeship program pathway.
Thank you very much, Aidan. This it was exactly in line with the question and what we are seeing now, because I wanted to go a little bit deeper on the digital component on that with Mr. Li Kang to see under what condition did remote learning models improve access to education for underprivileged groups, and what worked and what didn't work so well according to your experience. Mr. Li Kang, you have 5 minutes, please. 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. In Yunnan, the poor people are undereducated. They are not very motivated to learn and study. How to improve the environment so as to unleash the enthusiasm for these people to participate in the training. This is a key task for the government at different levels. Our analysis tells us that the poor people encountered a conflict of time between their work and training. Therefore, in order to unleash their initiative or enthusiasm, thanks to the 4G network coverage, which is quite extensive, as well as the high penetration rate of smartphones. In line with the realities of Yunnan province, we developed an app for vocational training, as well as an online training platform for VET. In the past, people need to go to a physical site for their training courses. But nowadays, with these apps available, with the online platforms available, these people can be very conveniently choose the time slots to study on their smartphones, on the PC platforms, websites. They can study alone or together with some of their friends. By so doing, we greatly enhance their enthusiasm. By so doing, we address this difficulty of low enthusiasm and participation rate. By combining the online platform and apps, by developing the online specific modules, we give great convenience and autonomy of these trainers, of these learners. It greatly improved the environment for the VET training in Yunnan province. We have achieved some initial success. First, we address the problem of conflict in time between work and training. The learners can pick their own time for study. They can also pick the content, the modules that they would like to attend. Second, so voluntary choice of the modules. These modules were improved in quality. They are better designed because the learners and the people can pick their preferred modules, and these training fees are paid or subsidized by the government. If the learners, a lot of learners pick this module, and the developer of this module will receive a higher pay from the government. By so doing, we improve the quality of the modules so that the developers and designers of these modules will work very hard to enhance the quality and suitability of their modules. In addition, because now all the modules can be delivered online, it improved the supervision of the government over these training courses. In the past, we need a lot of manpower to supervise these physical trainings, but nowadays we can leverage the digital technologies to better monitor and supervise the training programs delivered so as to make our trainings more targeted and precise. I think that this model has been very well received.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Fantastic. I will try to wrap up on this, but I want to give the floor again to Sara Andinia, just to ask to Sara in 1 minute, under what conditions these digital technologies can generate exclusion instead of inclusion? What is your experience on that?
It's under all conditions, honestly, because taking learning online in any country is bound to lead to learning gaps, thanks to the inequity of access, and that's especially true for youth. The most accessible yet engaging technology we've been able to leverage at scale has been a basic cell phone. And a ton of research and testing around this that we did really showed that even avenues like radio are quite expensive and the impact is difficult to measure. And a majority of our participants have access to a mobile phone, a basic feature mobile phone, whether it's the device they own or they borrow it from a family member or a friend. And just with regards to the previous speaker's point around access, we also discovered that boys are more likely to own their own phones than girls, and it's challenging for our female learners to participate in lessons. Another is the expectation that girls take on additional responsibilities at home during the pandemic, and this makes it difficult for them to prioritize attending lessons. So the virtual experiences that we're able to give our participants really is focused on helping to bridge that digital divide and engage female learners more by focusing on reaching out to their caregivers to give them more support to enable them to participate in our lessons, and even in facilitating all-girl conference calls so that they feel safer to engage in those spaces that we provide for them. Similarly, the rigid daytime lesson schedule didn't work for them, and we then had to integrate flexibility into it, where in some cases our mentors were working towards finding out how many girls are available at a particular time, and that is what dictated when we would be able to run our lessons. So I had quite a bit to say here, but I know we're running out of time. So I'll keep it short and also add that distance learning will never be a substitute for high quality in-person education entirely. And our experience during the pandemic showed us that youth don't need a traditional classroom to develop skills. It's not critical to provide a meaningful and impactful learning experience in person. We can leverage tools like traditional phone lines to complement what's being done in the classroom.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And it's a beautiful ending for our discussion. I learned a lot. I thank you very much, all participants. And I hope that this was as interesting as it was for me, for who attended or listened to this discussion. What is my conclusion? I don't want to conclude the discussion, but I want to just to say that we need to put at the center of the system the users and tailor policies to facilitate access to TVET, but also to the skills of the 21st century that was that were so far limited for upper class kids. And this idea of entrepreneurship, communication, etc. They are a very strong complement of the technical skills. Digital as a first door to access skills, but this has to bring to the classroom, has to bring to a more face-to-face interaction with a policy that again is tailored, accessible, inclusive to everyone, and that takes into account the different needs that different groups in different places may have. So thank you very much for being with us. It's 11 o'clock, so we end on time. And again, I give back the floor to organizers, and it was an honor for me to moderate this panel. Thank you very much.